All right, so in this video, we are going to go over the homework. We're supposed to be solving each of the right triangles by finding all of the missing sides and angles. We're supposed to be making sure that we show our work and that we use a trig ratio to find each missing piece of information. So even though there could be other techniques, we need to be able to use trig ratios. So let's take a look at number 1 and answer the questions. Okay, so the very first thing that you want to be able to do is to take the given information and mark it up on the diagram. And if at all possible, always use the given information to find what it is that you're looking for. So we know 55 and 16, so I'm going to start with finding side A. So then that means I'm going to take sine of 55 degrees. And remember that your trig function always has to be representative of an angle. And so it's opposite over hypotenuse. And then from here, I'm going to multiply by 16. So I am going to get A is equal to 16 times sine of 55 degrees. And we go to 3 decimal places and we get 13.106. Okay, so now I can fill that in. Now the next one we're going to do is to go ahead and find the adjacent side. So we're going to go and use cosine. So we've got cosine of 55 degrees is equal to b over 16. We're going to multiply both sides by 16. And then when we do our calculations, we get 9.177. So now I can fill that in with 9.177. Now all of the sides are done for. Now what we need to do is find angle B. And it did say for us to use a trig ratio. So very important, you could do this either direction. What I need to be able to do is to try and use the given information if at all possible. So I'm going to use the hypotenuse as 16, and you could either do sine of angle B says opposite over hypotenuse, which would give us B is equal to sine inverse of the same ratio. And you could put that in your calculator, and when you do that, that should give you B is equal to 35 degrees. Or you could have used cosine of angle B, and we found that to be the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And again, you only need to do it once, but the ratio would be different depending on what you decided to use, but the value of the angle still ends up being 35 degrees. So this is 35 degrees. All right. Now let's take a look at number 2, answer the questions. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to mark up what we know. So A is 9. And then angle B is 49 degrees. Okay, so from here, we know the angle and we know the adjacent. So it doesn't matter kind of where we start, we just need to start finding the side. So let's go ahead and use tangent of 49 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent, which means I'm going to end up multiplying by 9 to both sides. So B is equal to 9 times tangent of 49 degrees. So you put that in your calculator, go to 3 decimal places, and that's what we get here. So I'm just going to label it as I go. All right, so that's one trig function. All right, now let's go ahead and do sine, cosine of 49 degrees. So cosine, because that's adjacent and that was given to us over hypotenuse. So let's go cosine of 49 degrees is equal to 9 over c, right? Adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm going to multiply both sides by c. Multiply both sides by c. Then we've got to divide by cosine of 49 degrees. So we have c is equal to 9 divided by cosine of 49 degrees. So we end up finding that c is 13.718. All right, now we got to find the angle. Angle A, remember we try to stay with what we're given. So we're definitely going to have to use something. We could either use sine, which would be opposite over hypotenuse, or we could use tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. So either way, it doesn't matter which one you do, but I'll just go ahead and do tangent of 49 degrees. I'm sorry, tangent of angle A is equal to opposite over adjacent. That means A is equal to tangent inverse. Remember what you have to do. To get rid of this or to isolate the argument, you have to multiply tangent by its inverse, which is tangent -1. Tangent -1, that isolates the A. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. And then when you put that into your calculator, you get 41 degrees. And then you would mark that up. Now, you should be able to predict what the answer is going to be because you should know that the other two angles are complementary. So you know that the right angle plus the given angle plus something needs to equal to 180, which is why when you subtract 90, you have 49 plus the given angle needs to equal 90, which is why these are complementary. But the directions said to use a trig ratio for each missing piece. All right, so now let's take a look at number 3. All right, so let's go through this rather quickly here. We're going to mark up our given information. C is 63.1 and B is 56. I'm going to go ahead and do cosine of 56. And then I'm going to multiply by 63.1, and then I get this value for A. And then I'm going to go ahead and label it. So A is 35.285. And then now I'm going to do sine of 56 degrees. And then I'm going to solve for B. And so B is 52.312. And then now I need to do my angle. So if I do angle A, I would want to do like sine or cosine because the hypotenuse was given to me. However, I'm going to show you that it really doesn't matter if the other two sides are right. So tangent of A is equal to opposite over adjacent. So A, we had to do tangent inverse, and then in the calculator, you would get 34 degrees. And again, you should be able to predict what that number is going to be. I also would like you to either choose when you go to actually do the work to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Let's just go ahead and do sine of A is equal to 35.285 over 63.1, and then A is equal to sine inverse of 35.285 over 63.1, and you should still end up with the same result. All right, so number 4, we're going to go ahead and mark up the given information, and then I'm going to start with cosine of A, so that means I'm 5 over 12. Solving for A is going to give me the 65.376 degrees, all right? And then sine of B is going to give me the 24.624. These should add up to 90 degrees. And then last but not least, we can do sine of this angle is equal to A over 12. And then we should get this value. Now, it doesn't matter which trig function you use as long as you end up getting this value, right? So let's take a look at the word problem here. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we read a couple of times. So we've got a spotlight is mounted 7.3 meters high on a pole. So that's where the 7.3 meters high is going to go to illuminate the center of the parking area at point A. If A is 10.2, all right, so we're dealing with from the base of the pole, all right, so from the base of the pole, all right, we're here. And at what angle of depression? Now, angle of depression means you got to do a horizontal line, and we've got this here. So we've got theta would be the spotlighting. So we need to actually we need to first find this angle right here because this is our triangle. Okay, so we've got our 10.2 and our 7.3, but we're asked to find this guy. But in our triangle, this is the angle that we're looking for. So we know from this angle, we know opposite and adjacent. So we're going to go tangent of alpha. So an alpha is just like this little curly Q here. And then we're going to go opposite over adjacent. And then we're going to go ahead and solve for alpha. And we get alpha is 54.409 degrees. But remember, that's what this angle is right here. We don't want that angle, we want this one. So we should know that these are complementary angles, which means that they add up to 90 degrees. So we have a right triangle right here. So theta is going to be 90 degrees minus your alpha, and then we end up getting 35.591. See if you could do 6A. All right, so we've got a 30-foot ladder leaning up against a wall, and it makes a 70-degree angle with the ground. All right, so the first one on A says, how far up the side of the house does the ladder reach? So let's make that X, and we are given the hypotenuse, and we are looking for, in terms of the angle, the opposite. So let's go ahead and do sine. So sine of 70 degrees is equal to X over 30. We're going to multiply both sides by 30. And then we find out that X is 28.19 feet. And on the second one, what's the horizontal distance from the bottom of the ladder and the house? So we're going to make that Y, okay? And so now we use 70 degrees because that's given, and our 30 degrees because that's also given. So we're going to use cosine, all right? So setting up that ratio, multiplying by 30, and you get 10.261. Now let's go down to number 7. It says to find the value of x in each of those equations. Now your calculator does not do secant, cotangent, or cosecant. So what you need to do is relate secant to its reciprocal function. So secant x is the same as cosine x if you flip. Okay, we've got to flip it. And then now we can find x by taking cosine inverse, and then you get 42.833. Now try that for number 8 and number 9. So cotangent x, we are going to do the reciprocal. So we're changing it to tangent x, and then we are going to flip, okay? Then we're going to take tangent inverse and find our x value. Cosecant, remember that the reciprocal is sine, and then we need to flip. Okay, so we're going to flip this, and then we're going to take sine inverse, and then we find out the degrees.